Alrighty y'all, it's Renee here. We're going to be making this little two-tone clutch today. I'm going to show you step by step in the video how to make it, including the pattern, so stay tuned. First of all, the things you're going to need to make this little two-tone clutch are going to be the pattern pieces, and I am doing mine 9 inches wide. The top band piece is 9 inches wide by 5 inches high. The bottom band is 9 inches wide by 3 inches high. And if you want to make a longer clutch or a wider clutch, you can do that. It just depends on how you want to do it. But these are the pieces I'm using if you want to follow my pattern exactly. Okay, and then you're going to need the fabrics, which this is going to be the outside of mine, and I've just chosen like a royal blue for the inside because it's what I had. This is broadcloth. It's really economical for doing insides of bags. Okay. And I have cut some, I didn't make pattern pieces for these, and I didn't make pattern pieces for the lining because I'm going to do that a little bit different. I have a piece here that I'm going to use as a little finger loop, and then these are for my zipper ends. And then of course I have a zipper, and I really didn't have any other color that would kind of match this, so I'm just using this kind of deep gray zipper here. I also need interfacing. I'm using the fusible 809 Decor Bond interfacing. The first thing I want to do is I've got my outside pieces here, and I want to attach these to the bottom of each piece. Attach the two pieces together, however you want to say that. I'm going to do that. I'm just going to go over to the machine and sew down the bottom of here, and then I'll be back to show you the next step. Now that we have our pieces sewn on, we want to just open them up and press down this seam on the back side. Okay, my next step is I do want to make a kind of a top decorative stitch on this, so I'm going to go ahead and take them over to the machine and just right along the edge here, following this edge, I'm going to top stitch a larger stitch. I'll probably use 3.5 stitch length to do that. I've got my top stitch, so the next thing that I need to do is cut out some interfacing to put in this on the back of these outside pieces of the bag. So I'm just going to lay them on top here, and this is on the fold, so there's 2 layers of this interfacing, and I'll have 2 pieces. Now we just need to lay wrong sides facing together. That's going to be the wrong side of the fabric with the shiny side of the interfacing. I'm just going to squirt a little bit of water on it because it helps to keep the interfacing from scorching. So now we've got these outside pieces, and we can use one of these as a guide for cutting the lining. And I didn't really make sure that was even. This 2 layers of fabric, so that we'll have 2 pieces for the lining of the bag. Just want to pin it on there and cut around it. Now I have this cut out, but I'm not quite done, because one thing I've learned with making these bags is that if the lining is the exact size of the outside, it kind of bunches up down here at the bottom once it's finished. So what I like to do is cut about a 1/2 inch off of the top. You don't need to really cut the sides. That you don't ever want to do that because the bag would look messy. But for some reason, just making this lining a little bit smaller helps everything to come together nice and pretty with no bunchy looking corners on the bottom. So I've marked off about 1/2 inch for both layers of this lining, and I'm just going to cut it off. And now we want to cut our interfacing for our lining. Got 2 layers of interfacing here and 1 piece of the lining. Lay it out neat, make sure there's no wrinkles in it. Don't ever try to iron your interfacing before you put it on the fabric, because obviously it's going to stick. And I wouldn't pick on you if you did, because when I first started using it, I actually tried to do that once and I felt like such a dummy. Wasn't even thinking. My interfacing had gotten real wrinkled and I did something extremely stupid and tried to iron the wrinkles out. Sometimes you're just thinking too much and it happens. Okay, so now obviously our next step is to put the shiny side of the interfacing on the wrong side of the fabric. So there we have all of our pattern pieces ready to go. Now we just need to prepare the zipper. I'm going to do this one a little bit different than I did the one for the cosmetic bag. So I'm going to do this on camera so you guys can see maybe a little bit easier method for making those ends of the zipper. And I've just got 2 scraps of cloth here, a little over 1 inch wide. I'm going to fold them over and press them down really good so that I get it. Now all I have to do, instead of sewing it this way and then turning it and pressing it, is I'm going to put it right on the ends past these little metal points, and I'm going to sew across the top. And I'm not going to do that on camera just for time's sake. So you see I've got my little ends on my zipper. I'm not going to clip anything here yet. We're just going to wait until the bag is put together. But I am going to trim these. You can see this one's a little crooked, but I'm not super worried about it. Just trim those sides off so that they don't get in the way of lining everything up whenever you start to put the zipper on the bag. So yeah, you know, that looks way longer than we need it, but that's okay. Don't trim it down. You may trim too much and then you have to start over with another zipper. Next thing is I want to make this little loop that I'm going to put on the bag. And there's nothing really fancy about this. You can do a turned piece if you want to, if it just makes you feel better, but I'm just going to do it like this. Press everything to where there's no raw edges on this because it would show. What I'm going to do is take it to the machine and sew down the edge of both sides to neaten it up a little bit, and then I can clip these ends off. So you see we've got our little loop piece here, and now I'm just going to clip. You want it to be maybe about 2.5 inches long. You don't really need it any longer than that. And then you get this little loop, and you can put a D-ring on it or leave it like it is, or put a swivel hook, however you want to do it. Okay, so our next step is to start attaching the zipper. And we want to attach where the zipper pull is on that, facing the right side of the fabric of the outside of the bag. I've got my zipper foot on here. I've got my stitch length at 2.5. I've got my setting speed on medium setting, and I've just kind of lined up where I did the ends of this zipper. Just lined them up where I want them, and I'm going to turn my zipper around so I don't have to start by unzipping it. It doesn't matter which end you start. You just need to pull that that zipper open if you start with the zipper pull down here so that it doesn't get in the way. I'm going to line up the edge of the zipper with the edge of the fabric, and I'm trying to stay centered. You can almost see in this zipper a little centerpiece that kind of gives you a guide. If you stay with that, you should be good to go. Once I get close to that zipper pull, I want to take the hand crank over here on the side of my machine and push the needle down in so it keeps the fabric in place. And I can lift up the presser foot and open up that zipper. And I'll put the presser foot back down and just continue sewing. I'm going to line these pieces up, and that would be the right side of the lining fabric facing that wrong side of the zipper. And just make sure everything's lined up and flip it over. And start from, make sure my thread's not caught in there, it'll be a mess. Start using this stitch line as a guide. Now I've got one side of the bag done. I just want to flip this open, get all this material out of the way, and do the same thing with the other two pieces on this part of the zipper. So I'm going to do that off camera. Okay, we've got all 4 layers of our bag together, and you can see when you do this right sides should be facing each other when you open it up like this. So I've got the right side of the outside, right sides of the lining. The next thing I want to do is attach my little loop that I created. And so first I'm going to fold it over. Well, I need to change out my zipper foot. I want to fold it over and just stitch it together so it doesn't shift around when I go to put it on the bag. It's just, I guess it's really up to you where you want to put it. I'm going to put it at the end that the zipper's on. Just make sure you open up all layers. You only want that one layer there. You don't want to sew all of that together. And I'm going to put it right along the edge here. I'm about an inch from the top of this zipper casing, zipper closing, or whatever you call it. Just go back and forth a couple of times to keep it in place. Okay, so now you see we have all of our layers of our bag. Now what we can do is we can trim off this excess from the zipper. You want to pull everything out. You don't want to rip the seams, but you want to pull it down so that it's all laying flat and without touching those zipper teeth, because if they're plastic they can melt. Just want to press right along the edge here. Now what we want to do is put all these right sides facing together. You want to be sure before you start pinning that you open up the zipper at least halfway so that you can turn it. Okay, so we've got it pinned. I'm going to start right here, go all the way around, and stop right here, leaving about a 2.5–3 inch opening in the lining for turning. I finished sewing the lining. I think I might have made this hole too small. It's only like 2 inches, but I'll fix that. Now, since we're not squaring the corners of this bag or anything, we need to make sure to clip the corners off. Just make sure you don't clip into your stitches. That's why, if you saw my speed up, I don't know if you could tell, but I back stitch at every corner so that I don't clip through that stitching, and then you'll have a hole in the corner of your bag. Alright, so the next step is I'm going to reach my fingers all the way down in here and go through that zipper. And I'm going to start by pushing up a corner of the outside of the bag and bringing it through the bag, the opening. The next thing you want to do before you push that lining down in there, or before you close this opening, is to push all the corners out of the outside of the bag. It's not necessary to do that with the inside because it's going to be pushed in the opposite way anyways. Now you can close this opening with a blind stitch or whatever you call that. See, I'm poking the corners out anyway, and I told y'all not to. Or you can just fold it in and press it and take it to the machine and sew across there. That's what I usually do because, I mean, nobody's really ever paying attention to the inside of the bag. You do need to make sure that those corners aren't going to get caught when you sew it, so you do need to kind of poke them out a little bit. If you sew it on the machine, just go right along the edge there. You don't want to take up too much of that space. Okay, so you see I've closed mine up. Now I'm going to push everything down in there and poke out those corners really well. So there you have it. There's a little two-toned clutch bag, whatever you want to call it, with the blue lining. I like the blue lining. I don't know why. It just seems to work well for it. But that's it. If you have any questions or any suggestions for future videos, be sure to leave a comment below. And because we're told to say it, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video. Peace, y'all. Bye-bye.